Ya. Invitamos a que suba al escenario al magíster Juan Carlos Villegas, por favor, si podría subir al escenario. Ahí está. Magíster ya está subiendo. El ingeniero José Fuertes la va a recibir. Bien, ahí está acá. Muy bien. Entonces, vamos a presentar la siguiente exposición, que estará a cargo de dos investigadores del Instituto de Investigación para el Desarrollo IRD de Francia, del Instituto Geofísico del Perú igualmente. Ellos son el doctor Mohamed Chile y el magíster Juan Carlos Villegas. La exposición que van a presentarnos es Deformación y terremotos asociados a la subducción en el Perú. Fuertes palmas para ellos.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I will talk in English. So I will talk about some work that we are doing here in Peru. Many French institutes from IRD that are here, from University of Nice, from where I come, also from Toulouse and Grenoble, and Juan Carlos Villegas that is doing his PhD with us actually, and Hernando Tavera from the Instituto Geofísico del Perú. So this is the group of the Sismología del Instituto. Okay, perfect, thanks. So this is a group of seismology of the Instituto Geofísico del Perú with Hernando Tavera that you probably know there, and you have me and Juan Carlos on the right. So the work that we are doing here is to try to understand the different phases of the seismic cycle. And basically, if you take the subduction of the Nazca Plate below the South American continent, you can see that in the seismogenic zones, if you start with an initial state that is in blue here, and you suppose that the contact between the two plates is locked during the interseismic period, the deformation that you can see during the interseismic, you can see a vertical deformation that is materialized by the second cartoon. And also with some GPS displacement, if we measure the horizontal displacement that is oriented toward the Andes. This process can stand for many hundreds of years, and in a few minutes, all the energy that is accumulated in time is released instantaneously during an earthquake. And you can see an example here for the Antofagasta earthquake in '95 with some both GPS displacements that are the arrow, and also you have some images that come from satellites, radar satellites, taken before and after the earthquake. And the difference between the two images give you the vertical deformation of the ground. And finally, there's a third phases that we call post-seismic that stand a few years after the earthquake, and is a period of adjustment between the co-seismic and the return to the interseismic state. So totally on the right, you can see another interferogram that is showing the interseismic state in the north of Chile. And in the area where the Antofagasta earthquake occurred, right after you can see another type of signal that corresponds to the post-seismic phase. So this is these different phases that we try to understand together to anticipate better large earthquakes. Please, next one. So the reality is a little more complicated than that. So basically what you see here is the contact between the Nazca plate that is subducting, and you can see the coast here, the Pisco, Lima, the coast of Peru. So, and on this contact, what happened is that we have a random distribution of asperity. And we cannot see this asperity, we have no real, so they are hidden from us. We try to understand what are their characteristics, if they are single asperities that are isolated, or you could have groups of small or big asperities all together. And when an earthquake occurs, for example, for magnitude 6, it could correspond to only a very small asperity, like the one you see here. So if you have a magnitude 7, it could be a bigger one. So the 6 typically is 10 kilometers, and the 7 could be between 50 and 100 kilometers. So now, if you have a magnitude 8, it means that many of these asperities fail at the same time. The rupture is typically about 200 kilometers. And finally, if all the asperities break at the same time, you can generate a huge earthquake, magnitude 9, as we have seen in Japan or in Chile in 2010. So, as you can see, the magnitude of the earthquake really depends on how many of these asperities fail at the same time. So for us, what I was showing you at the beginning is some GPS points. So on the floor, we can install some points and monitor the deformation in time to try to estimate where are these different asperities, where they are hidden on the contact between the Nazca Plate and the South American continent. So here's another image of the seismic cycles. The image totally on the right indicates the co-seismic phase. And what we try to find out with observation before an earthquake is if we can see the area of high slip that you see for the co-seismic phase, if we can retrieve them before the earthquake occurs. And actually, with the observation of satellite images and GPS, this is possible to have some ideas of the apparent coupling and see where are these asperities before an earthquake occurs. So today, right after the earthquake, what we start seeing in many different places is that some slip continue to occur at the contact between the place, and it occurs preferentially around the area that have failed during the co-seismic period. And this is materials in yellow on the left side below. And on this yellow area, you could also see with seismic networks all the aftershocks in this area. So, please, next slide. So here you can see some examples of big earthquakes that occur here in Peru. You have on top the Pisco earthquake, the 2007 magnitude 8 Pisco earthquake. The middle one is the Nazca 96 earthquake, and the one more below is the Arequipa earthquake. So for each of these earthquakes, a joint inversion of both satellite images that are materialized by dots here, and the arrows, which are the GPS displacement, allow us to find out better the characteristics of the slip at the contact between the two plates. So we have here, for example, for the Pisco earthquake, you can see that the maximum slip was about 4 or 5 meters, and the rupture was about 150 kilometers. For the Arequipa earthquake, which was much bigger, magnitude 8.4, you see that the rupture extended for about 250 kilometers, and that slip was much higher and wider for the maximum slip. So this observation, so we can also do a joint inversion using teleseismic data, for example, with INSAR satellite images points, and you can see here a different source for the Pisco earthquake, for example, with two asperities, one located right below the Paracas Peninsula and one over much north. So we published in 2010 a paper in Nature where we, for this Pisco earthquake, we studied the three phases. On the left here, you can see in blue the co-seismic sources that I just showed you right before. And also in color, in red and yellow, you can see the post-seismic slip that occurred in the 2 years following the Pisco earthquake. This is exactly on this area that most of the aftershocks occurred, and the aftershocks are the purple contours. So you see that they fall more or less in this area. So now if we look at the interseismic period before an earthquake, so you have here a compilation of 5 papers that were published with interseismic GPS data. And the analysis of this different data indicate that we can see that the contact, the coupling between the two plates is quite heterogeneous. If you look in Peru, the best model for Peru is the one on top. You can see very large asperities and one exactly in the region of the Pisco earthquake. Similarly, in the Arequipa earthquake, you can see that the region that failed during the earthquake was highly locked also. Next, please. Next. Okay, in 2008, it was more or less the state of the art for this region in terms of interseismic coupling, and there was no observation in the north of Peru. And Juan Carlos Villegas did his PhD on this project. And to understand what is happening in the north of Peru, a large network have been deployed from Lima. So the triangles in the Paracas were the one installed right after the earthquake to understand the post-seismic relaxation. And all the others were installed continuously since 2008, and 3 profiles were added in 2009 to better understand the deformation of the Andes in this region. So here you can see 2 examples, the San Lorenzo Island, that is just in front of Callao, 6 kilometers offshore, and also another point that we have in La Oroya that we have remeasured this year. So here are the raw processing of this GPS data for the San Lorenzo Island. This is the fastest velocity deformation that we observe today in Peru. You can see on top, this is the north component since 2010 to 2013. We have more or less 15 millimeter on that component. The one in the middle is the east component that show about 18 millimeters, and we see the vertical abajo that show a little of uplift, but as you see, it's very noisy, and it is not really clear for that component. So if we look now all the displacement for all the station as we are seeing, so you can recognize Lima, which is at latitude -12. And so you can see that the maximum deformation observed today is in this area. We measure about 2 centimeters per year of deformation oriented toward the Andes. And when you look at the north of Peru, you can see that all the GPS indicate a motion quite different than the one that we see in central Peru, oriented in the south, and that indicate that all this area move like rigid blocks. And it was a new finding of this study. So if we correct now from this rigid motion, here's what is left. and here's what is attributed to the interseismic coupling between the Nazca Plate and the South American Plate. So, two models that have been done by Juan Carlos to understand this observation. This one, so you have a minimum model, that is the one on the left, and the maximum model on the right. And totally on your left, what you can see is the energy. This is what we call the moment rate deficit. This is Newton meter per year, and the scale is 10 exponent 18. So you can see the amount of moment that is accumulating along the subduction. So you see really a very strong difference between the north of Peru, where the coupling could be very, very low, or just in a small area in front of Trujillo. And in the region of Lima, what we see is that the coupling is relatively high and consistent also with the historical earthquake in this region. So here I have put on top of the interseismic coupling map the historical rupture that we know. You can see the 2007 that breaks only the southern portion, the 74 that may have break the second one that we see here. So the biggest one that we know in the recent time is the 1940 that should have been about magnitude 8.2. And in 96 there was a 7.8 much enough. So we should not forget that as it happened in the last century, each of these blocks, each of these patches can break individually, but sometimes what happened, like in 1746, is that all these asperities break at the same time and may generate a much larger event. So this is a work in process, and I will stop here. Thank you very much for your attention.